Hey, what's up, guys? Today I'm going to talk to you guys about a faith principle that Jesus taught, which has been chronically misunderstood by the body of Christ. And to do that, I'm going to compare the same verse in the NIV and the King James Version. Now, I'm not telling you what version to read. I do read the King James Version because I do think it's the best. And I do think that there are some serious problems with a lot of the modern translations. But God can speak to you through any version. But I would recommend comparing and contrasting modern versions with the King James because, like I said, I think the King James Version gets it right a lot more often. So here's a perfect example of that. So the teaching in question is the mustard seed. Jesus is comparing faith to a mustard seed. So here's the context. They go out to cast demons and heal the sick and all that stuff, and they come across a little boy and they can't cast the demon out of him. So they bring him to Jesus and they said, "Master, how come we couldn't cast the demon out of him?" And this is Jesus' reply. This is found in Matthew 17:20, and so I'm going to start with the NIV. He says, "Because you have so little faith. Truly I tell you, if you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, 'Move from here to there,' and it will move. Nothing will be impossible to you." Okay. Now, here's the King James Version. "And Jesus said unto them, Because of your unbelief, for verily I say unto you, if ye have faith as a grain of mustard seed, ye shall say to this mountain, Remove from hence to yonder place, and it shall remove, and nothing shall be impossible unto you." Now, on face value, these verses seem pretty similar, right? Never mind the fact, and this is kind of the subject for another video, but the very next verse, Matthew 17:21, which says, "This kind cometh not out but by prayer and fasting," in the King James Version, is completely omitted in the NIV. So that verse does not exist in the New International Version. Okay? But let's compare Matthew 17:20. What's the difference between these two translations? So, well, first of all, let's read the first line. It says in the NIV, "Because you have so little faith." In the King James Version, it says, "Because of your unbelief." So right off the bat, those are two different things. Little faith is different than unbelief. Unbelief is unbelief. Little faith is you believe a little bit, right? Those are not the same thing. And here's why that matters, because the NIV actually contradicts itself. See, on one hand, it says, you couldn't cast the demon out of this boy because you had little faith. But then he goes on to say, "Truly I tell you, if you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, 'Move from here to there,' and it will obey you." So what this translation is trying to get us to believe is that small faith can move a mountain, but small faith can't cast a demon out of a boy. Is it harder to cast a demon out of a little boy or make a mountain move? Right? So that is a contradiction. It really doesn't make any sense. And here's why it doesn't make any sense. And this is actually the point of the entire video. If you go to the King James Version, it doesn't say anything about the size of the mustard seed. It says, "as a grain of mustard seed." NIV says, "faith the size of a mustard seed." King James Version says, "faith as a grain of mustard seed." And for those of you who really like Greek and Hebrew, I got the Greek right here. As you can see, it says, "faith as a mustard seed." Nothing about size. You might say, well, what's the difference? Huge difference. Jesus is not saying that if you have faith the size of a tiny mustard seed, that you can move a mountain. He's saying that if your faith has the characteristics of a mustard seed, you can move a mountain. And what are the characteristics of a mustard seed? Well, you could Google it if you really want to know, because obviously you can find a description of a mustard seed online. But the cool thing is that Jesus actually told us what he was talking about in another parable. So for this, we have to go to Matthew chapter 13, verse 31 and 32. It says, "Another parable put he forth unto them, saying, The kingdom of heaven is like unto a grain of mustard seed." So in Matthew chapter 17, he's saying that your faith as a mustard seed can move a mountain. And here in Matthew chapter 13, he's comparing the kingdom of heaven to a mustard seed. So obviously there's some kind of There's some kind of connection here, right? He says, which a man took and sowed in his field. So he had a grain of mustard seed, he sowed it in a field, and it says, which indeed is the least of all seeds, but when it is grown, it is the greatest among herbs, and becomes a tree, so that the birds of the air come and lodge in the branches thereof. So what are the characteristics of a mustard seed? It starts as something really small, and when it's planted and watered, it grows into a giant tree that birds can actually make their nests in. So what is he saying about our faith? He's saying that if your faith starts small, but you progressively build it bigger and bigger and bigger, eventually it will grow so large that then you can speak to that mountain and say, be removed and cast into the sea, and it shall obey you. Jesus is telling us that we can progressively build our faith to the point so that we can believe for greater and greater things. Now, you wouldn't wake up one day and just decide, I'm going to believe to raise the dead. I mean, that would be awesome if it worked. See, but that's not what Jesus is telling us here. He's telling us that we should start small. Start with believing to heal a cold or a headache, and then move higher and higher and higher in your faith and trust for God. Don't believe for $1 million today. Believe that He's your provider for your electric bill, and then your rent, and then a new car, and then a new house, right? You see what I'm saying? That if you progressively build your faith, you'll be able to one day speak to a massive situation, and that situation will change because of your words, because you built your faith. Don't wait until the problem to build your faith. Build your faith in preparation for the problem, so that when that mountain-sized problem comes, you speak to it and it obeys you. So, guys, this is what Jesus is talking about. The devil has deceived us through, frankly, poor translations and the human mind that gets in the way and says, oh, he must be talking about the size of a mustard seed. He has deceived us into passivity and inaction, thinking, well, surely my faith is the size of a mustard seed, so I should be able to believe for a mountain to move. No, he's telling us to progressively grow in our faith and trust in him. So I hope this video blessed you guys today. If it did, please like, subscribe, share the video with somebody who needs to hear it. And until next time, be blessed.